I remember when I got arrested. And the thing about it is that people don't actually realize how devastating that can be to you. The second you get arrested, most of your friends will disappear, your family will probably look down on you, and all these things combined will lead you to isolation. And years later, reflecting on that experience, I've kind of come to realize something that maybe that wasn't the reality as much as I thought it was. You end up playing this character that you think you're supposed to be. You get arrested, you think everyone's like, oh, look at that loser, and maybe your friends do abandon you because they think you're a bad omen, but they're probably not the friends you want anyways. And so you start to believe you are this character, you start to reinforce the idea until you destroy yourself. Life finds a way to stabilize. I like to say the word equilibrium, but I think that makes me sound a little nerdy. So, life likes to stabilize, right? What you believe reaffirms itself over and over and over and over again. So if you're an addict and you think you're an addict, you're going to keep on reinforcing that idea, and then you're going to keep doing the actions that reinforce it. You keep stabilizing the character that you think you are. And after I got arrested, I thought everyone looked down on me. I thought I was a bird, and I felt ashamed to be anywhere. And, eventually it led to me being in a deeply, deeply depressive state. I was isolating myself for months on end. I have a video on it posted a couple years ago on this channel if you look for it. But I found myself going deeper and deeper and deeper into the shame spiral until eventually I didn't care to go on anymore. And the reality of it is, how different were things really? I mean, really, there I am. I got arrested, right? How different is my life? Sure, I had to go piss in a cup for drug test. Sure, I had to go do community service. But how bad of a change really was it? Because you take away the extra things you have to go do, the most dangerous part of it is your mentality towards it. From that moment on, I could have been like, okay, you know what? I'm going to dedicate all my time to doing YouTube or doing this or doing that, right? To improving my life, to working out. I could have gotten much better. But instead, I had this idea of myself in my mind that I was a loser, that I was a burden, that I was ashamed of what happened, and that I had to remove myself from the world. That I had to stay away from everyone because I was that loser who got in trouble. And so, at some point, that all changed. For those of you that don't know, I have another channel that I hit over 100,000 subscribers on. And what actually changed? Well, the thing that changed is how I saw myself. When I was at my rock bottom, I saw myself as the greatest burden in the world. And when I say that, I mean a burden on everyone around me. And to an extent, I was, I don't know how old I was, maybe 20? I might have been 20 years old living in my mom's basement. So I guess, in a way, I am a quote-unquote burden, which I think that's a very American mindset, but that's besides the point. I felt like a burden. And when someone feels that way, they go to complete means to either hate themselves or eliminate their existence. I would stay awake at night to avoid disturbing people during the day because I didn't want to be seen. I would tiptoe through the house so I wouldn't be heard. I would do everything to make my existence as unnoticeable as possible. Because in my mind, I believed I was this thing. And eventually it stabilized into that. Life stabilized what I believed I was. And at one moment, I had an experience that completely flipped my perspective. Go look at my main channel, Adorable, if you want to hear about it. I talk about it in those videos, but I'm not going to say here. It's a long story. So I had this moment that changed everything, right? And suddenly I just realized you are the sum of your thoughts and your actions. I started reading a lot of these books on manifestation and stuff like that. And I know it's woo-woo, but it's really just comes down to you are your thoughts and actions. And so you have to be very aware of them. So I started meditating a lot. I've probably meditated thousands of times by now. I learned how to pick my thoughts and not to pick some. And eventually, my thoughts I didn't want to have stopped showing up because I was no longer that person. I did not identify with them. And so when that thought came up, I just let it pass by because that's not my thought. It's not me. So it has nothing to do with me. It's kind of something along the lines of you ever had a call to the void? You're driving and you're like, well, I could drive off the road right now or something like that, It's kind of like that, but you don't ever give that thought any extra energy, right? You're just like, oh no, that's stupid. And that's what you should be doing with all these thoughts that are not helping you. And they come up in a lot of different ways. If you're gonna try doing something, right, you might say, okay, I'll try. But just by saying I'll try kind of insinuates that you have the expectation that you're not going to succeed. You know, a thing that you could say is I'll do it. I'll try is a weak word. And a lot of these things show up in the way you talk about things. You know, let's say you find a girl pretty, right? You'll walk up to her and you're like, oh, I think you're kind of pretty. And you say kinda because you're not fully secure in your self-worth, because you feel the need to put a little bit of a pullback in there. You know, it'll be like, oh, I didn't fully mean it. You know, it's kind of like you're not even stable in your own opinion. And so you have this, you know, your in-between state. And in-between states are really bad because they seem as disingenuous, right? You know, I get compliments sometimes, right? And, you know, a lot of times they are those half-hearted, like, oh, I kind of think this, blah, 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 right? And then if I hit them back with, oh, I kind of appreciate that, then it sets in, right? It's like, oh, okay, I get it. That's kind of insulting in a way. And so you really got to ask yourself, what do you want? Who do you want to be? Because without those two things, you can really never know where you're going, you know? Like, you know, okay, fine, you're going to control your thoughts, right? But control your thoughts in what direction? What are you trying to be? Are you trying to be a degenerate? Are you trying to be rich? Are you trying to be prosperous? Are you trying to be happy? You know, it's like, where are you going? If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to end up there. It's kind of silly, right? Like, you have no destination in mind. How do you expect to reach somewhere? I mean, it's like me telling you to go drive to the store and you just go straight until you hit a store. You know, it's like, okay, you might hit something eventually, but you have no real direction. And you'll notice in life that once you actually start doing these things to become this new character, it becomes normal. Anyone who's gone to the gym will notice this. You go to the gym for long enough, eventually it's actually enjoyable, right? The first few times, first week, it's just like, I don't want to do this, right? But eventually it's like, okay, yeah, this feels good. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to gain some muscle. I'm actually starting to look better. And, you know, you keep on going because it's actually enjoyable, because you become that character. You know, a fun fact, I missed an upload yesterday on this channel. And, you know, to do this recording today is just like, oh God, I don't want to do this. And I missed one day. I missed my schedule by one day. And suddenly I'm reverting back to the old character who did not do this. And so the old character will try pulling you back. You know, you slip up once, your old character will be like, oh, no, that's who you are, dude. You don't need to do that, right? And so you got to actually completely be like, nah, I'm not that. I'm not going to do that. And you do the thing you're supposed to. And eventually, with enough time, it will become so stabilized in you to do otherwise will completely throw you out of the loop. You'll be like, who is that, right? And so that's the point. Do exactly what you want to get to where you want to be until it becomes you. And then life will finally reach its equilibrium around who you are supposed to be. And if you really want to see it live in action, rewatch this video. You'll see all the times I'm doing validation seeking things. Every time I say, oh, right, I'm looking for validation. It's still a sign that deep within me, I still have this feeling of not being valid in my own opinion. And it shows throughout the whole video. And so I'm not fully healed on that. Like, I'll be completely honest with you, but you will realize that in your own life that you do that quite often, that you do these things to get affirmed. And to be affirmed by others is pretty much to say that you're not affirmed of that in yourself. Someone who is fundamentally solid in who they are does not need other people to confirm it.